When we picked up this fake Lamborghini shell in the middle of the night, we had one goal in mind: to build an absolutely wild, one-of-a-kind drift car.
Holy
And in just 4 weeks, we've cut up a BMW E36, installed a Lamborghini shell, installed coilovers and wheels, welded in an insane roll cage, and dummy fitted our 13B rotary motor.
And off camera, your boy's been hard at work on the interior of the car, getting the cage pretty much finished on both sides. There's a couple more things to do, but look at how that looks. Just so freaking good. And I'm hyped that our cabin is actually going to work fairly well. It's all pretty well enclosed. Obviously the firewall at the rear needs to be finished. Got a wee hole down there that needs to be filled. But it certainly looks like a car now, and the E36 is actually working for us. Which is pretty amazing because, to be honest, I didn't really do any research before we started the build. I just knew that the wheelbase was the same and everything else was a complete risk. And so far that risk is certainly paying off for us. But today we're getting straight into the next jobs on the list. But one of the big things is mounting our 13B rotary motor into this engine bay. Currently it's just held in by these straps, and I don't think that'll pass check at the track. Of course, if you haven't watched the previous episodes, this isn't just going to be a naturally aspirated 13B. We're slapping a turbo on this thing and it's going to make all the right noises. But after this, go back, watch all those episodes. It's been one hell of a journey so far. So currently the engine is sitting on a block of wood and sitting on the subframe under here. But the good thing about these 13B Renesis motors, they have a flat oil pan, which means getting the angle of the engine isn't super hard. And that block of wood is about 15 millimeters tall, so that's how high it is currently sitting off the subframe to give us clearance. I'm pretty happy with that, but the big thing is obviously getting the engine center in the chassis. So the crank right here is the center of our motor, and so basically we'll find the center of the chassis, mark it up with the center of the crank, and then of course down the back with the gearbox we'll center that in the chassis as well, and that should have everything nicely in line. Then it's about figuring out where we're going to put our engine mounts. So back here you can see that they are the old BMW E36 engine mounts, but up here is where the engine mounts go for the rotary motor, and I'm not really that keen on going all the way back to the stock engine mounts. It just seems kind of unnecessary. The factory sway bar mounts right here on the E36 line up really nicely with where our engine mounts need to be. Now I don't run a sway bar in my E36 race car, and I won't be running a sway bar in this car. I just prefer the car to be set up that way, so we're going to make our engine mounts go directly off our sway bar mounts on the chassis. Now we could just bolt them up, but I'm actually going to weld the plates directly to the chassis. Then what we'll do is make engine mounts that come off the motor, and then they're going to bolt to the mount that goes off the chassis under here with some polyurethane in between. That's the theory anyway, but first things first, let's get the engine sitting exactly where we want it in the engine bay. Then we can look at making some mounts.
It's really important we get our 13B engine in the perfect position before we go ahead and make our engine mounts.
So this is the back exhaust port, and that'll be the rear port for our turbo manifold. The biggest concern obviously is just making sure that that is not too close to the steering column, but currently where it sits there's plenty of room. That'll 90 off, so that should be fine. So I think the engine is about as far back as it can go. We also don't want to go too far back because then we have no chance of actually working on the engine. But here I can actually still reach everything on the motor. I can undo the turbo manifold, I can undo the intake manifold, we can get to the spark plugs, all the stuff on the front of the motor, and that's exactly what we want.
First up, we mark the center line on our gearbox tunnel so we can line up the gearbox. As you can see, this took me a couple of goes to get it right. The engine and gearbox need to be perfectly level as well as perfectly in the center of our BMW chassis. This whole process took me a solid 3 hours of shuffling the engine round until we finally had it in the perfect spot.
So much time has passed since I started measuring this thing, trying to get it straight, but I think we're in the exact, well, I know, I don't think, we can't think with something like this, that we are in the position that we need to be to make the engine mounts. Everything is dead straight. Now we actually get to move on to making the mounts. So next we're gonna use some CAD to make our engine mounts. CAD meaning cardboard aided design, which I thought was pretty genius, but we're gonna use our cardboard for the template. And basically, this guy, we're just gonna press him into the studs under here. got one side done, we're gonna use the classic YouTube magic for the other side. Look at that. I'm actually so happy with how those turned out. But now we need to connect the motor to our new mounts. So on each side of the motor, there's a place where we'll bolt the mount. Both sides are different, unfortunately, which means we need to make a template for each side. So for this side, it's just a real simple, straight piece of plate. And then on this side, the plate looks a little different because it's got 3 bolts. So we're gonna have to make a funky looking plate there. And then once again, we'll use a piece of tube that'll go nicely down to our engine mount. It's pretty simple, but it's also really important to me that this part looks really professional because I want the engine bay looking just absolutely amazing. So let's go ahead and make our plates for the engine.
While this process is fairly repetitive with lots of cutting, grinding and drilling, there's nothing quite like cranking a podcast in the shop, getting in the zone and getting creative.
So our plates are bolted to our motor, and that's a really hard part done. That 10mm plate honestly sucks to grind. So next up, we need to get from here to here, and to do that, we're going to use our steel tube, and basically what we're gonna do is we will weld a bit of steel tube from here, obviously down to the mount, and on the mount, we're going to have a vertical piece of steel tube. So it's basically just the cap welded on with the hole, and this slips on our engine mount that we made, just like that. The bolt does up through here, and we simply weld a bar that goes from here to our nice new bit of pipe here, and we just notch it out really neatly, so it should look super neat when it's all said and done. So last but not least, let's lay some pipe. That doesn't make sense. One down, one to go. So our engine mounts are now fully fabricated, and I'm really stoked with how these have turned out. But let's go ahead and give these a lick of paint, throw them on the motor, and then it'll be officially mounted in our Lamborghini build. So freaking cool. This is the most hyped I've been for this whole build. And that is because our 13B motor is officially mounted in the engine bay of the Lamborghini. And I'm so freaking proud of those engine mounts. They look absolutely fantastic. And look at that, it's right at home in that engine bay. Like I said, it's a bit of a bummer that they can't be symmetrical, but I think it looks absolutely fantastic. All of that measuring, all that time absolutely paid off. And I guess we can say this thing is officially rotary now. And that is actually insane, but we're not done just yet. So 13B turbo motors are known for creating a lot of heat. And the one thing you need to do to keep them reliable is to keep them cool. The oil and the water, it's absolutely essential that you keep them within their operating window. Luckily for us, Fenix radiators have sent us out a whole bunch of goodies to do exactly that. Look at this. I'm being completely honest when I say builds like this one honestly just could not happen without the help of sponsors like Fenix radiators. These guys sent us out our radiator and intercooler for the rear wheel drive Evo, and it's been absolutely flawless. I love their stuff. But for the Lamborghini build, these guys have gone absolutely above and beyond for us. We have an intercooler, a radiator, we have a spout fan, and I believe they've made us a custom fan shroud, knowing that we're doing a rear mounted radiator. So I'm really excited to get this stuff open. And of course, 2 oil coolers. They're very, very essential for our 13B motor. And since we just got the motor mounted, I thought it would be an awesome time to unpack the Fenix intercooler and mount it onto our custom 2-step garage E36 intercooler bracket that we sell. Check this out. Ooh, how good. I absolutely love these things. Look at the quality. Insane. Look at that. Beautiful. So freaking good. So our intercooler brackets are laser cut and perfectly bent to fit this exact size intercooler. This is your like generic size intercooler that you see on all the cars, but this bracket is also made to fit an oil cooler on it, which is pretty sick, but we're obviously not going to use those brackets because we're doing a fully custom setup. But because we've retained the stock E36 rails, it means that this is actually probably going to work for us. That looks so freaking cool. Look at that. The Lamborghini coming together one piece at a time. How good does that intercooler look just hidden in there? You can just see it. Perfect. Obviously, getting flow to the intercooler is going to be another thing altogether, but that looks amazing. Every little part that we chuck in this engine bay is just elevating it to another level. Of course, we still need to fit this guy in there, but that'll be in the next video. I'm actually mind blown with how well this thing is coming together. But while we're opening Fenix stuff, we may as well go ahead and kind of dummy fit the rear mounted radiator in the back and see exactly where we're gonna put it. And this is our custom fan shroud that Fenix have sent us, but I didn't realize they'd gone to extra lengths with this thing, because check this out. This is absolutely incredible. So if you didn't know, this design right here is actually the design on the back of my hoodie right now. I can't show you because I'm one person and I cannot, and I'm not one of those flexible circus people, but this is our Angry Boy design that we have on our merchandise and on our steering wheels, and the Fenix boys fabricated this shroud for us to hold the spout fan onto our radiator, and they added this extra touch, which I'm honestly blown away by, and I did not expect this at all. So a massive shout out and thank you to the team at Fenix. You honestly made my day today. All right, enough mucking around with the radiator stuff. We've got the car on the hoist, and that is because whilst we have our engine mounts done, we have not yet done the gearbox mount. And to do that, we need to get the car in the air. So I've brought in a little bit of help for the gearbox mount because my brain is fried from making the engine mounts. We're gonna get Dave to help us with the gearbox mount, and he's come up with a pretty good idea, which is cool because I would not have made it this way.
So I raided Mike's little scrap pile over there.
We make everything out of scrap metal.
So gonna start off with some angle iron. It's gonna come bolt up into there on obviously both sides. And then we got some mad roll cage tube, which I'll kind of notch and put up into there.
Hell yeah.
Like so. And then grab some of this box section and kind of drew the little design up there.
Little Batman like ninja star thing.
Ninja star that I'll notch and cut, and that will kind of get bolted there and sit into the tube.
Oh, and then the tube will go into the notch in the front.
The little notch there, and bolt up, and we'll look all sexy and awesome.
Having Dave here to help with the gearbox mount is certainly a breath of fresh air, and it's always interesting seeing how a real fabricator would approach a job like this. So I was more than happy to sit back, watch, and learn. Do you know how nice it is not having to work on my own car? It is so good.
Alrighty guys, so I'm pretty much halfway through making this gearbox mount. A little bit different from the final design, or the first design I had. I think this is going to work a lot better. I had to have the arch coming up because one side sits about, I don't know, 50 mil lower than the other, as you can see there. So got that all welded up, looking nice. This is the other piece that's actually going to tie the gearbox to the mount, which I've got a nice little notch in there that's going to sit just in under there like so.
That looks so good.
Super nice.
It's a nice wee package.
You did a good job on those engine mounts, and
oh, thank you.
Having this going to tie it together and it's going to be perfect.
Look sick. This is my mate Dave, and this is his gearbox crossmember. So good. Dude, that looks sick.
Yeah, come up alright.
I'm so happy. I didn't even have to do anything. That's the best part. Throw it in, son.
Ooh, yeah. There we go. Look at that.
Bro. Straight in.
Like a glove.
I actually love that, dude. That looks so good. Now the fun part, you get to move the jack out of the way. If the gearbox falls out, it's totally your fault.
Alright.
Stayed in.
Perfect.
That is so good. That's a good looking mount, dude. Well done. Absolutely killed it. So I'm absolutely wrapped that our 13B is now fully mounted in the car, and we can now call this thing a 13B rotary fake Lamborghini, which is kind of a mouthful. But while we're under here, we're actually gonna do a couple of jobs. And the first thing is dropping the stock fuel tank. Now the stock fuel tank is actually in a fantastic position, but we're not gonna use it because we've got a Raceworks fuel cell to throw on top. And this area here, we're actually gonna use as ducting for our rear mounted radiator. That probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense just yet, but it will in a couple of minutes when you see us mount the radiator on top and how we're going to do it.
Yummy.
There you go. Getting rid of all this stuff is so satisfying, honestly. And just like that, we're fully stripped underneath. Everything that we want gone is gone, and it's gonna be so satisfying under here. Just cutting off all the little bits that are sticking out we don't need, undersealing the whole thing. It's gonna be good. But for now, we're gonna bring the car down and we are going to mount our rear mounted Fenix radiator. We're getting so much done in this video and it's all for you. So if you feel like it, hit that subscribe button, help the channel out, hit the like button even if you feel like it. We are mounting the radiator in a kind of interesting way, but basically we need to chop a big hole into our car. So these holes right here are actually the factory holes for the fuel sender on top of the original fuel tank.
And we're basically using these holes as a template to cut a big hole in the floor, and this is where we'll get our fresh air for our rear mounted radiator setup.
Hole! Perfect. We threw some cardboard on the other side of the radiator so we don't mark it because it's freaking beautiful and we want to look after this thing. Here you go, David.
Thank you.
We decided to lay the radiator towards the front of the car to be a little bit different, but mostly to expose this beautiful new shroud that Fenix made us.
These are our beautiful brackets that I just whipped up.
They look good, dude.
All right, bit of scrap steel. And then I'll kind of just sit and weld in there.
Measure 3 times, cut once. Measure once, cut 3 times. Yep. So currently we've just got foam sitting on top of our square tube at the moment because we are going to make mounts, but for now we're going to sit the radiator in. Oh yeah. That's crazy, eh? I think that's very cool. Not bad with the plates that you've made down below. I'm so happy. Hey, I appreciate you. Make sure you follow Dave on Instagram as well. Do it somewhere below, but he does four-wheel drive stuff. So if you like GU Patrols, is it GU?
GU Patrols,
yeah.
Four-wheel driving, up high country.
Dave.
Bye.
Bye. And that is a wrap on this video, guys. But quickly, let's take a walk around the car and have a look at the insane progress that we've made in the past 4.5 weeks. The shell is fully mounted. The engine is fully mounted. It looks so good in there. Everything's come together so well. The cage is in, firewall, lock kit, wheels. It's insane. And it feels damn good to have started progress on the rear of the car as well with our rear mounted Fenix radiator. Of course, we still have an insane amount of work left to do, and I'm aiming to have this car finished by Christmas. I know it's a big goal, but I'm pretty sure we can make it happen. But look at it, so good. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for supporting. As always, hit that like button, subscribe if you feel like it. And I'll see you in the next video where we'll be playing with this thing. Finally, the drift kart's back. I'm trying to bang out 2 builds at once for you guys. The content's coming. Thank you. See you in the next video. Peace. Bye. That thing's officially rotary. Like, you can't say it's not, because it is. It's rotary. It's mounted. It's good to go. Now we just have to get it running. Bye.